The storytelling that we get in episode 9 is nearly non-existent, so if you think we're going to find some in analyzing these lightsaber battles, you're probably wrong. In the scene that you're watching right now, Rey and Kylo are fighting each other, but they're not even in the same room. They're like doing that weird force teleporting thing where they're existing in the same plane, but in like different dimensions at the same time. This really weird ass shit. So if you can get past the continued destruction of the Star Wars universe, the fights could be pretty cool, except they don't do much fighting. Like, look, they're changing locations here. I don't even know how this is possible. This is some god level shit that they're just teleporting around. Like, what? What is that with the berries spilling down? How can this even be possible? These gotta be, they must have ascended past Jedi Masters. So I can't even get behind the fight itself. It's just too mind warping. When they are clashing sabers here, they're just throwing one really big swing at each other, and then they talk, and then they charge, and then they talk, and then that's just pretty much what happens here. It's really just kind of a joke when you look at the storytelling that went into the prequels and the OT. To see something like this, it's just kind of J.J. Abrams showing off his special effects, trying to wow everybody with things we've never seen before. There was no weight in this fight. I wasn't invested in it. I was wowed by how cool everything looked. And then the fight was over, and I was like, wait, how did they teleport and fight at the same time? Here we are at the final fight scene, and I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw this in theaters, I wasn't excited, because all I was thinking about is how are they standing on that damn Death Star? I saw that thing get blown up into 1,000 billion little pieces. No, scratch that. There were no pieces. It was completely blown up. So, okay, here they are standing on it, and they're gonna fight. There was no build-up that had me invested in the fight, and that's why I wasn't excited about it. Kylo and Rey have fought a bunch of times already, and we already know that Rey is super strong, and we already know that Kylo is never going to live up to his full potential. And the way that Rey got to this planet was through one wayfinder that got her to another wayfinder, to another wayfinder, and no one really cared about how she got here, or, why she even went there. We don't even care that Rey and Kylo are fighting again. It's just the storytelling has fallen flat on its face. J.J. Abrams never gave the audience a chance to catch their breath in this movie or feel the weight of anything emotional. We're just it's thrown at us that they're fighting again, and we're like, oh wow. And we're so mystified again by a cool fight scene that we don't stop to think about anything really until Leia convinces him to turn to the light side, which we're not even going to get into how and why he changed his mind, because it's never really told to us. But he drops his lightsaber, and then Rey kills him. A man without a weapon, a change of heart, which I guess she doesn't sense, plunges his own lightsaber into his own chest, and then feels bad about it, so then she heals him. We're not even going to get into force healing here, but she force heals him, and then she just takes off. And then Kylo has a moment with Han, which is actually really nice. I was not expecting Harrison Ford, and I thought that this was a beautiful moment. And then he throws his lightsaber away, which is pretty stupid considering the fact that he goes into his next fight scene without a weapon. Would have been probably smart for him to keep it. So this fight we all thought was going to be the pinnacle of the movie because it was thrown at us in the trailers so many times that none of us were surprised when it actually happened. And this doesn't even resolve the story when they're done fighting, because in fact they're going to meet up again later. So it's just dry, you don't have a lot of investment in it emotionally. Rey and Kylo have fought so many times already throughout this trilogy, and not a single fight has really meant anything. I was so hopeful in that first movie when they fought, and I was so excited to see what was going to happen between them, and just, why does it matter if Rey wins? Why does it matter if Kylo wins? If Rey wins, she's going to go to Palpatine and try and stop him. If Kylo wins, he's going to go to Palpatine and try and stop him. And neither of them really win, and both of them go to fight Palpatine anyway. Well, actually, Rey technically wins because she takes advantage of him when he didn't have a weapon, but Kylo already had her beat before he had his little moment there, so any kind of victory here just doesn't feel good. Okay, so now let's talk about the actual fight itself. Since we've already analyzed the storytelling, or the absence of storytelling, let's get into the actual lightsaber battle. Alright, let's start off with the audio, since that's what we did with the OT. It's only fair, right? Okay, here's the pre-fight music from Darth Vader versus Luke. And Kylo versus Rey. Both are totally silent, right? But why does the weight of the OT fight feel like it has so much more weight to it than the sequel? Episode 9 is supposed to be the climax fight between Rey and Kylo, a fight supposedly 3 years in the making. And they're playing silence, not before the fight, but during the fight. Since there was no build-up or tension like the OT did, the whole build-up between Luke and Vader, every time I watch that scene, I almost hold my breath. The tension is so thick. But when you watch the sequel fight between Rey and Kylo, it's just quiet at the beginning, and you're just like, okay, I guess there's no music for this fight. Alright, now let's listen to the music played in the background of Episode 1 with Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan. This isn't even the pinnacle of the prequel trilogy, it's just the first movie in the installment. And Kylo and Rey. Yeah, that's boring. Why did they make this scene so boring? That's the worst part about this fight scene, is that it's so slow-paced. Episode 9 literally came out 23, 24 years later, and this is the best they could come up with after 24 years? So now we have an unengaging story, nothing on the line, and boring music. Surely the choreography must be off the charts. Alright, this is probably my biggest beef with this fight scene. Why are these lightsabers so heavy? They're literally called lightsabers. That's just energy coming out of the blades. I mean, sure, lightsabers do have a weight to them, but they're swinging these things around like each lightsaber weighs 100 pounds, and it takes all of their strength just to connect with each other. They're just exhausted and beat by the end of this movie. Why would this be a pinnacle fight? This looks like this is their first time fighting. This is a worse fight than the first time they fought. Also, another thing that pisses me off about these sequel lightsaber fights is that they don't even swing at each other. No one is swinging to hurt each other. Look, they're just aiming for the lightsaber. In this moment here, Rey turns around nice and slow to swing at Kylo. Nice wide horizontal sweep. Kylo could go for the entire exposed area in the head that's not being blocked at all, but instead he chooses to respond by swinging and aiming for Rey's lightsaber. That's what I hate, man. They just aim for each other's lightsabers. At least if you're going to do that, speed it up a little bit, then it's easier to justify the combat is so quick and there's no openings, right? That's a whole other argument when there's no openings. Also, can someone tell me what this shit is when they both take a moment to just block each other's lightsabers instead of just blocking with their lightsabers? What is this? Why would you expend so much energy just to hold someone's lightsaber back when you literally have a weapon in your other hand that you can use to block? You know how risky that would be to just whip your hand out instead of your lightsaber to stop a lightsaber? What are you going to do when you run out of energy? That thing's just going to come back and hit you. What if you don't block it in time? What if your timing is slightly off? You know what would be a lot better than that? Just actually using your lightsaber. Oh, yeah, there's one more lightsaber fight we gotta talk about, and that's when Ben fights the disappointments of Ren. The most anticipated villains of the entire sequel trilogy that just got completely forgotten about until the last movie, where they didn't do anything except chase Kylo Ren about. Yeah, that's a fight everybody cares about. Oh shit, Kylo. Man, don't you wish you had a weapon here so you could actually fight these guys? But you 3 years in the water. Oh, no, never mind. We can just teleport objects, apparently. This would have been such a cool moment of Ben Solo redeeming himself if it hadn't been such a stupid setup. And of course, Rey at the same time needs somebody to fight, so she fights some more red guards. We already know she can wipe the floor with these guys, so no one actually cares about this either. I think we all kind of thought the Knights of Ren were going to have red lightsabers or something cool, but they all just have regular ass weapons fighting in a dark cave, so it's really not that exciting. He's fighting people without lightsabers and he's wiping the floor with them. Also, what is this? Why does Kylo bend down, hold his lightsaber over his back, waits for someone to attack him? Fortunately, one of the Knights of Ren does attack him. He just aims for the lightsaber, doesn't take out both of his legs or anything. That's very convenient. Very well choreographed fight. Then they work together to defeat Palpatine, and by work together I mean Rey defeats Palpatine because Palpatine sends Kylo down a hole, and even though this is called Rise of Skywalker, the only guy in the room with actual Skywalker blood is not involved in taking down the main villain. Also, sorry about that Action Cove watermark there. It's really hard to find footage from episode 9 without watermarks. I'm going to cut to the chase here because this video is becoming very long and you've been very patient with me, so let's just do it. Palpatine sucks all the life out of Kylo and Rey and then becomes super powerful, even though he wasn't like super powerful Sith Lord before. Now he's like got his granddaughter's power and a Skywalker's power within him. Nothing can stop him, right? Well, at a lazy attempt at storytelling and conveying that the scene is in any way emotional, Rey gets a pep talk from literally every Jedi in the universe. Disregarding the fact that Anakin Skywalker was supposed to be in this scene and help Rey bring down Palpatine together, thus his sacrifice isn't actually tarnished and undone, and he's still a part of taking down Palpatine and being the chosen one and bringing balance to the Force. But Kathleen Kennedy didn't like that edit of the movie, so she just cut it out completely. Instead, she just has Rey do it by herself because she's so incredibly powerful as is, and even though she's had all of her power sucked from her, she's gonna do this by herself. Remember when I said earlier, Palpatine's so strong, what can stop him? He wasn't counting on 2 lightsabers. Oh, then she just slapped that second lightsaber against the first one. Apparently holding a second lightsaber has doubled her strength against the Sith Lord with Kylo and her own power in him, and she walks towards him and sends the lightning back at him, and Palpatine does not stop shooting the lightning even though he's literally killing himself in this scene. He doesn't stop shooting the lightning. So why am I being so hard on the sequels? Why am I ripping them apart? It's just because the theme of this video is the storytelling in the lightsaber battles. It's more than just people swinging lightsabers. There's supposed to be a deeper understanding, a powerful connection between you and the main characters and even sometimes the villains. There's supposed to be build-up. It's supposed to be tense. You're supposed to worry about who's going to win. Tensions should be high. There should be a lot at stake. People should be able to die without coming back to life. That's just not good writing. When people are able to die and come back to life, you just stop taking the whole thing seriously completely. Why would you care if anyone ever dies? Why do we care that Rey beats Palpatine? How do we know that the sequel trilogy isn't going to come out and somehow Palpatine returns yet again? Ben gives his life to save Rey, but who cares? Because Ben's probably going to come back to life in the next movie anyway. It's lazy writing. It's bad storytelling. Yeah, because you have a death scene, it's sad, but if you don't care about the person who's dead, it's not nearly as emotional as when someone you actually care about, who a story has been built around, actually dies. And the last complaint I'm going to make about the sequel trilogies in episode 9 is I just hate that they kiss at the end. It just seems so incredibly forced. They were trying to make a beautiful ending out of nothing. It literally doesn't make any sense that they had any kind of emotional connection at all. Kylo Ren is literally a genocidal killer. He killed his father right in front of Rey. Rey witnessed him kill his dad, who was someone that she had been connected to at that point, and she just has forgotten everything, and she just gives him a big kiss right at the end. It's stupid writing. It's just, in the moment it's a nice emotional scene, but then after the movie ends you're like, wait, what did they kiss? Doesn't she call him a monster? Isn't he the reason that Luke and Leia are dead? Isn't he the reason that most of the Resistance got wiped out? The amount of planets of people that Kylo Ren killed just to find that Wayfinder? And then she gives him a big kiss and he dies. Good writing. We literally don't even have time to grieve for Rey before Ben is dead. You don't even have time to feel sad. We get 2 death scenes in one moment. We don't have time to process either of them. On episode 2 of the Star Wars Gallery, in the last 6 minutes, you can find this on Disney+, Dave Filoni, you could call him George Lucas's right-hand man, was talking about how much was at stake in that first fight with Darth Maul. The song playing in the background we all know is called Duel of Fates, but why is it called Duel of Fates? He's explaining how the Duel of Fates is actually about the fate of Anakin Skywalker. Qui-Gon knows that he's the father that Anakin needs. Qui-Gon's never been exactly by the book. He knows that the Jedi are kind of lost a little bit in the whole political game, and they've forgotten what it means to love and care for other beings in the galaxy. And he knows that he's the right role model that Anakin needs, because Anakin's not by the book either. He joins the Jedi Order later than he's supposed to. He kind of doesn't do things traditionally, and just due to his upbringing, he's a bit of a wild card. And Qui-Gon knows that he, also being a bit of a wild card, knows that he's the one that should be the one to raise Anakin. So when he's fighting Darth Maul, he's fighting for his quote-unquote son. He's fighting for a life for Anakin. And he knows that if he can beat Darth Maul, he can be that role model that Anakin needs. But unfortunately, he dies, and then Obi-Wan raises Anakin somewhat reluctantly, because he does it out of a promise, because he promises Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon's dying words were to raise the boy. So Obi-Wan didn't really volunteer to do this, and he didn't really even care about Anakin at the start. But theoretically speaking, Qui-Gon would have been the right role model for Anakin, and he may not have ever turned to the dark side. There's an example that I heard Star Wars Theory talking about, and that's how Obi-Wan never helped Anakin save his mother, and Anakin always blamed Obi-Wan for that, because Anakin went to Obi-Wan and talked about how he had these dreams about his mother dying, and Obi-Wan always brushed them off, just saying they're just dreams. But if Anakin had listened to his dreams, which were probably in a way the Force trying to communicate with him, Obi-Wan kind of made him close his mind off to those dreams, and then his mother died. Qui-Gon may have actually encouraged him to pay attention to those dreams and may have saved his mother. And the whole thing that started Anakin on this road of being afraid of those he loves and cares about dying, that may not have ever happened. He may not have ever seeked out that extra strength from Palpatine in the first place. He may not have ever needed Palpatine to be that grandfather figure in his life. Obi-Wan was pretty close-minded and a little bit stubborn when it came to trying out new things, and he wasn't exactly the best role model for Anakin. There's a lot at stake in this first fight between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon, and Dave Filoni connects that at the end to Darth Vader versus Luke, when Darth Vader sacrifices all of his power, he sacrifices everything that he's built up for his entire life to destroy Sidious, because he knows it's time for him to be that father figure for Luke. And Star Wars Theory talks about how Darth Vader makes that connection that now it's time for him to be Qui-Gon. Now it is time for him to fight for the fate of his son. That's the point I'm trying to make here in this whole video. The storytelling, the emotion, what's at stake, that's what's important. And now before we wrap up the video, I want to talk about the fight that I've been saving to the end. The shining example of what I think a lightsaber battle can be. Earlier in this video I talked about all the tension that had built up in the OT when Luke was fighting Vader for the first and second time, but I don't even think that comes close to the tension that's built up before this fight. Order 66 has just happened. Anakin has betrayed the entire Jedi Order. He's betrayed Padme, he's betrayed Obi-Wan, he's betrayed everyone that he's ever cared about in his life. He's slaughtered women, he's slaughtered children, he's slaughtered innocent people, but he still believes that he is doing the right thing. He still believes that his actions are just. Obi-Wan does not want to be here. He does not want to be fighting Anakin, but he's treating this more like a dog that he has to put down, the dog that he's had by his side for the past 10 years, the dog that he's loved and cared and raised, is now acting out. His dog now bit a kid, and he has to put his dog down. At this point, Obi-Wan's seen the holocrons, and he knows that Anakin's gone down a path that is beyond saving. It is too late for him. And I think that's maybe one of the problems that Obi-Wan has, being closed-minded and maybe being a little bit too stubborn and thinking that there is no chance that he could ever have saved Anakin here. Because I think that he could have. I think there was probably a universe where he's able to reach out to Anakin. This fight is very tragic. You know, it's the fight that nobody wanted to happen, but ends up being so jaw-droppingly intense that you just can't look away. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time. We talked about music earlier. Listen to the music in this scene. It conveys the intensity, it conveys the emotion, it conveys sadness, it conveys anger. It's everything all wrapped up in one. I watched a YouTuber try to break down this fight, and the video was over an hour long. I think I lasted about 10 minutes in, because he spends the first 10 minutes analyzing the first 10 seconds of this fight, talking about how accurate this fight is from a sword fighting perspective, like how they're swinging at each other now from what's called a high guard position, where you're able to defend your head and your upper body, and you're able to swing at somebody while protecting all of your vitals. He does a really good job analyzing it, so I'll put a link to that in my description. What also makes this fight super interesting is that Anakin uses the Form 5 lightsaber style, which is the most aggressive, hard-hitting, violent style of lightsaber swinging. And then you have Obi-Wan, who uses the complete opposite lightsaber form, which is Form 3, which is the ultimate defensive. So you have the ultimate offensive and the ultimate defensive fighting styles clashing here. As you can see, Obi-Wan's on the defense for pretty much this entire fight, just trying to keep up. Anakin is relentless. He's not holding back anymore. He's not letting his emotions slow him down. He's fully tapping into his dark side strength. This scene here is so powerful because Anakin's choking out Obi-Wan. You can see all the feelings of anger and fear and pain in his eyes. You look in those eyes and you see the death of his mother, which he blames Obi-Wan for. You see the blaming of Obi-Wan for everything that's happened to him being held back, all of the suffering. He's putting all of those feelings into his fingers wrapped around Obi-Wan's neck as he tries to slash it off with a lightsaber. So it's not just one guy choking another guy in a lightsaber fight. This is a Padawan choking out his master because he feels betrayed from his master. He thinks Obi-Wan is to blame for everything. But obviously he's not thinking clearly, right? Because he's just letting his emotions take over him and he's just fighting full dark side. There's not a lot of logic going through Anakin's brain here. He's just gone off the deep end and he can't stop now. So he just keeps pushing forward. One thing I never noticed until literally right now when I'm editing this video is that Anakin goes for this sweet kick and it lands, and Obi-Wan doesn't see it coming. That kind of speaks to how Anakin's willing to try new things and go outside the box. But because Anakin's reckless, he goes for the same move again because it worked the first time, but Obi-Wan sees it coming because he's wise and he's able to easily block it. And I feel like this is a tiny little moment that speaks to how, while Anakin is probably more powerful than Obi-Wan in this fight, he still doesn't have the experience, he doesn't have the wisdom that Obi-Wan has yet. Another thing I love about this fight is the windmill scene. It is so awesome. It is by far the coolest moment in any lightsaber fight, in my opinion. I've watched it 100 times. I always go back and look at it, and as much as I try and analyze it, I don't understand why they did it. I believe the technical term for this move is a flourish, or like a flurry of attacks, where you're trying to psych out your opponent. Maybe you'll work a swing in there, or maybe you're just trying to straight intimidate somebody, but both of them do it at the exact same time, so I can't be biased. This is thrown in here purely to look good, and I think the reason it does look so good is because we've been looking at non-stop clashing this entire time, and then there's a moment where there's this flurry, and you're like, whoa, 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 what's going on? And then they keep fighting, so it doesn't happen long enough for you to be like, okay, what's going on here? Why aren't they hitting each other? It's purely in here just to look cool, and I'm glad it's in here because it looks awesome. And then there's a break from the flurry of attacks, and they end up in a bit of a standoff, force pushing each other at the same time. There's so much power in this scene. I mean, really, these are two actors that are holding their hands in the air at each other, but what you feel in the episode is just this incredible emotion that you feel. Just for a second, there's a pause where you feel the weight of what it is that Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting, and how it is that this master and this Padawan are facing off with each other, but now they're close in power. There's not a huge gap anymore. Even the audio seems to climax here. The choir in the background hits a peak. They hold the note for the whole push. And then what I never noticed before is that the music changes to Luke's theme, or the Force theme, whichever one you want to call it, which pulls out all the emotions that you have from all the OT and all the epic Star Wars adventures and moments all leading up to this. How's that for storytelling in a lightsaber fight? Now they go flying across the room at roughly the same speed and the same distance, kind of symbolizing that their power is equal now. This is a balanced fight. And then there's a very subtle thing added here where they accidentally turn off the shields to these things that they're about to fight on. And now we're all nervous, like they're about to fight on them. They don't know that, but we know that. So there's this lingering dread that's already added to this epic fight. So from this point on until the inevitable end of the fight, they continue fighting, but the circumstances under which they are fighting and keep getting worse and worse. Now they have to deal with the lava explosions, the hot magma falling down everywhere. There's just 100 things being added in to make this fight more tense. Fighting in precarious positions, fighting on unstable grounds, but they can never let their guards down because any slip, any single small opening could be enough for one to defeat the other. So while they're trying to balance and do all this crazy stuff, fighting on all these crazy places, they have to keep their guards up. They have to keep fighting, or one is going to win. And now with all these emotions flowing through us and the fear and anxiety of being burnt by hot lava and all the things that come with the natural terrain, we're also dealing with the emotions that come with watching Obi-Wan and Anakin fight each other. And in this scene right here, the music pinnacles, and it's just beautiful. I get goosebumps every time I watch it. A pause where they don't clash their lightsabers, they just hold each other, and it's just a raw battle of strength and will. Right near the end of the fight, there was a moment where they're just standing here and they're staring at each other, and they're probably taking this time to finally process everything that's been happening, maybe reflecting on the decisions that they made to get them where they are right now. Well, Obi-Wan's probably the only one reflecting here. Anakin's just waiting for a chance to kill. In this next moment of calmness, Obi-Wan tells Anakin that he failed him. It's so powerful because Obi-Wan is probably so full of regret in this moment that he didn't do more to guide Anakin or nurture his emotions. And Anakin responds by telling Obi-Wan that the Jedi are all traitors. He's probably going to the only rationale in his head that can justify the decisions he's made. Anakin needs to think about the Jedi as traitors, because if he starts to think, use his heart, he'll remember the person that he used to be, the person that would never do the things that he did. So he's burying all of those thoughts, feelings, and memories with the inputted perspectives of his new master. And then here we are at the end of the fight, and I don't think that I have the time to explain all the little things that go on in this. I've watched countless videos that break down every single second of the scene. There's so much to break down here. So let's just remember the storytelling that's happening here. Anakin is reckless, overconfident. He tries to make a move that he knows he shouldn't. Obi-Wan, even though he's his enemy, tries to tell him not to, tries to convince him not to do something because Obi-Wan knows what he has to do. Obi-Wan does what I believe is a forbidden technique that is aimed at dismembering. He intentionally dismembered Anakin here, but chose to leave him alive. That I don't understand. Maybe he didn't have the heart to kill Anakin. Maybe he wanted Anakin to feel the consequences of what he's done. I'll never understand why Obi-Wan just left him there and didn't try and save him, but he probably thought he was a lost cause. Or honestly, I just don't think he had the heart to kill who he calls his brother in this next scene. This is the most emotional, heartbreaking scenes in all of Star Wars, and probably of any movie that I've ever seen in my life. I've never felt more emotion than I did in this. There's a moment here where Anakin actually mouths the words, "Help me," but George Lucas had it cut from the audio. I'm not really sure why. Maybe this scene was already hard enough to watch on its own. That would be just too heartbreaking to see Anakin ask for help. Maybe because Obi-Wan knew he couldn't help him. Maybe George didn't want us to have any sympathy for him here because Anakin turned to the dark side. And then to end this fight scene, Obi-Wan has to walk away, leaving his Padawan burning alive, full of regret and sadness and sorrow for what he's done, what he's had to do, something that is going to give him PTSD for the rest of his life. He's going to have to live with this. Yes, the scene is incredibly sad for Anakin because of the suffering that he has to go through here, but it's also sad for Obi-Wan. It's almost more sad to watch Obi-Wan because he has to watch this. You see his reactions, and Ewan McGregor does such a good job conveying Obi-Wan's feelings. Anakin is suffering physically, yes, but now Obi-Wan is suffering mentally and emotionally, losing someone he considered family, someone he considered a brother, the little boy that got them off Tatooine because he won a pod race. So the viewer has all of these thoughts and memories and emotions, and the soundtrack is brutally sad, and all you can hear is Anakin screaming. It's just brutally hard to watch, but it's a necessary setup for us in understanding Darth Vader. And it's the reason why the scene when Obi-Wan and Darth Vader meet up again, why it becomes so much more powerful the second time through. The movies come full circle. And that is the storytelling in lightsaber battles. A good lightsaber battle has something to lose and something to gain. The stakes are high. The emotions are high. You care about who's fighting. You care about the hero, and sometimes the villain. It's not always about the flashy lightsaber moves, but it does make the fight scenes more engaging and intense. This is why I love the prequels in the original trilogy so much, and why I think the sequels left something to be desired. That's why the Episode 3 lightsaber fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan is my favorite lightsaber fight, because we get to grow and learn the characters and their relationship, and it just makes the fight so much more powerful when we get to see it happening. Not to mention that the choreography is just awesome, the soundtrack is awesome. It's not just about the lightsaber battle between them, it's about the emotional battle between them. It's a story of friendship, family, betrayal, tragedy. Looking back at the lightsaber battles that we've talked about today, not many of them had a happy ending. There were winners and losers, but you didn't always feel happy when the protagonist won because sometimes it came at a cost. I think George Lucas was an absolute genius, and I will forever be grateful for what he gave us with the Star Wars universe. The storytelling is incredible, and I will always return to it. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for sticking around. If you like my channel, consider subscribing. I've got a lot more stuff coming. May the Force be with you.